Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, Staff Training and Research Institute of Distance Education, STRIDE, Master's Degree Programs, Master of Arts, Distance Education, MADE, First Year. MDE 411 Growth and Philosophy of Distance Education. Block 5 Growth and Innovations. Unit 4, China's Higher Distance Education, its 4 systems and their structural characteristics at 3 levels. Xingfu Ding editors note, this is a comprehensive piece on distance education in China. This article explains in detail the Chinese experience, which is interesting. Since the end of the Cultural Revolution, China has carried out a range of socio-economic reforms and a policy of increasingly opening the door to the outside world. In the rest of the 1990s and the next century, it is to be expected that China will play a more active and important role in the international community and particularly in the Asia-Pacific region. In the process of China's modernization, higher distance education has made a special contribution to both higher education and more generally to socio-economic development. However, there have been only a few publications in English about China's higher distance education, and these have mainly been about China's radio and TV universities, McCormick, 1982, Hockridge and McCormick, 1983, Ding, 1986, Huang, 1990, Ding, 1992, Zhang and Ding, 1993, Ding, 1994 etc. This report will provide readers with a broader analysis of the system and structure of China's higher distance education from an organizational and an administrative perspective. It concentrates on the description and analysis of China's 4 major higher distance education providers: L Higher Correspondence Education, L Radio and TV Universities Education, L Satellite TV Teacher Training, and L State-Administered Examinations for Independent Study. This report shows that China's system of higher distance education has a number of characteristics in common with other national education systems, for example, its large-scale and public character and the substantially expanded and diversified provision of tertiary education, mainly in service for adults. Within this context, the report identifies different models of organizational structure for each of the 4 providers. 1. China's higher correspondence education is identified as the separated multi-departments dual model. 2. The radio and TV universities education is the Chinese hierarchical multi-bodies model. 3. China's TV Teacher Training Institute is recognized as the courses transmission center model. 4. The state-administered examinations of higher education for independent study is the state examinations model. The first is similar in structure to correspondence education systems in a number of other parts of the world, e.g. Russia and the United States, but is quite different from the integrated model which characterizes Australian distance education provision. China's radio and TV universities education, too, is a unique hierarchical and multi-bodied system with 5 layers, together with a unique administrative and operational mechanism, based on overall planning, running schools and managing at various layers, from the temporary regularities of China's radio and TV universities, issued by the SEDC, CCR-U 1989, 7478. In this sense, the Chinese hierarchical multi-bodied model is quite different in organization and administration from the other single-mode institutions in other countries, such as the United Kingdom Open University. China's TV Teacher Training Institute, 3, is responsible for producing and delivering multimedia course materials for in-service primary and secondary school teachers in collaboration with other educational and broadcasting organizations. In this way, the institute has become the courses transmission center in the Satellite TV Teacher Training Program. The State-Administered Examinations of Higher Education for Independent Study, SEHEIS, 4, was introduced in China in the early 1980s. There is still a debate about the nature and implementation of such an examination system. Some consider it to be a form of higher distance education and a distinct part of China's higher distance education system, but most recognize it as simply a national examination system, not as a form of institutionalized distance education provision. The major thrust of the system analytical methodology applied in this report is to identify the main features of each system of provision at each of the following 3 levels. 1. The macro level, the national system and structure. 2. The median level, the institutional organization and structure. And 3. The micro level, the operating, teaching and learning, subsystem and its organizational structure. Look at the screen. Chinese higher distance education, a binary system. China has a nationwide binary system of higher distance education, higher correspondence education, HCE, and radio and TV higher education, RTVHE. Higher correspondence education refers to undergraduate education offered by Correspondence Division of regular higher education institutions, RHEIs, and independent correspondence colleges. The radio and TV higher education refers to undergraduate education provided by radio and TV universities, RTVUs, in China and China's TV Teacher Training Institute, CTVTTI, at tertiary level. The National Binary System of Higher Distance Education in China provides only higher education of undergraduate programs, and not any postgraduate degree programs. For postgraduate studies, all enrollments are on campus. A wide range of study fields are offered by both HCE and RTVHE, including most fields of study in RHEIs in China. China's higher distance education is normally for in-service adult education and training, though there is a small percentage of young school leaver enrollment. In the academic year of 1993-94, the total number of institutions providing higher distance education was 844, with a total enrollment of 1,019,200, of which around 131,000 were young school leavers. The total entrants, commencing students, and graduates, completions, in 1993 were 466,300 and 238,200, of which 79,200 and 23,700 respectively were young school leavers. China's higher distance education also provides a variety of other non-diploma education programs mainly for adults. These programs award various kinds of certificates but not diplomas or degrees at the tertiary level. Higher correspondence education, correspondence and evening education programs provided by the People's University of China in Beijing marked the beginning of higher correspondence education and evening college education in the People's Republic of China in 1953. Since then, with the exception of the interruption of the Cultural Revolution, 1966 to 1976, correspondence and evening education have represented adult higher education programs offered by those regular higher education institutions which have the full-time advanced learning for young school leavers as their main task. The following are the main characteristics of the system and structure of China's higher correspondence education at the macro, median and micro levels respectively. At the macro level, the national system and structure, there is a central authority, titled the Third Division of Higher Education, in the 1980s and the Adult Education Division, in the 1990s, as a department of the State Education Commission, SEDC, of the State Council, which is responsible for planning, policy making, macro adjustment, control and management of HEC. At the median level, the institutional organization and structure, the separated model. In China, HCE provisions are mainly run by the RHEIs, which accept both full-time young school leavers, who are studying and living on campus, and correspondence students, who are taught and managed separately. Staffing structure: different groups of academic staff teach and assess the two types of students. Those academic staff responsible for correspondence teaching and assessing are organized in several ways. L special groups formed within the relevant teaching and research sections, L special correspondence teaching and research sections set up within the relevant departments, and or L schools, and special correspondence teaching and research sectors built up under the segregated correspondence education division. The first two kinds of organizations are most popular and the last is the least popular. Correspondence programs, curricula, syllabi and course materials are specifically designed only for correspondence students and are different from those for full-time study. Assessment, accreditation and awarding systems are also different and separated. Finally, the two types of students will be awarded different types of diplomas and degrees, but their standards at the same level are required to be equivalent. Most RHEIs providing correspondence education have established a segregated administrative body titled Correspondence Division. A few institutions have set up independent correspondence colleges or schools for both administrative and instructional tasks. Correspondence Workstation, CWS, structure. There are three kinds of correspondence workstations that are used by different providers. These are institutional, local and departmental CWSs. All CWSs are responsible for organizing and managing attached correspondence classes, CCIs, on behalf of the sponsored RHAIS. At the micro level, the operating subsystem and its organizational structure, student learning model, groups based in workplace, in contrast to home-based, are common elements of Chinese correspondence education. Students are usually organized in correspondence classes and several classes are under the management of a CWS. The basic structure of correspondence study in China is independent study under the guidance of a correspondence tutor with face-to-face tutorials in the semester, and intensive face-to-face tutorials before the examination at the end of each semester. The main course materials are printed correspondence textbooks and study guides with readers and set books. Over the past decade, print materials have been supplemented with some audio and video material. Compulsory pacing is a key feature of correspondence teaching and learning in China. It is organized in the form of compulsory regular and intensive face-to-face tutorials and also by compulsory paced assignments and a marking timetable. Accordingly, correspondence education programs provided in China are mainly run in the form of a semester credit system. According to the above considerations, China's higher correspondence education is not an homogeneous model. There are 4 independent correspondence colleges with full autonomy in distance teaching assessment, accreditation and administration. In addition, only a few RHEIs, e.g. the People's University in Beijing, have set up independent correspondence colleges or schools with both distance teaching and administrative functions. However, most provisions of higher correspondence education offered by the RHEIs, e.g. Beijing University, can be identified as examples of the separated multi-departments dual model. The main characteristic of this organizational model is that correspondence students are taught by separate groups of academic staff using different course materials and assessment procedures. And a segregated correspondence division is set up mainly to conduct the administrative functions. Radio and TV higher education. China was one of the first countries to use radio and television for higher education purposes. The first group of metropolitan television universities was set up in the 1960s when television, black and white, usage became widespread in those metropolises. The Beijing Television University was the first one to be set up in 1960. Shanghai, Guangzhou, the capital of Canton Province, Harbin, Shenyang, and other big cities followed suit. Unfortunately, the development of this newly emerging initiative was interrupted by the Cultural Revolution, 1966 to 1976. By the end of the 1970s, China had entered a new historical era. Since then, socio-economic reform and the policy of opening the door to the outside have become key elements on the national agenda. In order to achieve the goal of modernization in socio-economic development, there is a huge and urgent demand for highly qualified professional personnel and a knowledgeable and skilled labor force. Mr. Deng Xiaoping met former British Prime Minister Mr. Heath when he visited China in 1977 and talked about the shortage of qualified professional personnel and undeveloped higher education in China. Mr. Heath spoke of the achievements and experiences of the UK Open University to Mr. Deng. Later, Mr. Heath sent a letter to Mr. Deng expressing his wish to help China to initiate a University of the Air and providing information about the UKOU. By then, a color television network had been built throughout China, excluding Tibet. Hence, the basic technological conditions for the establishment of a national radio and TV education system came into existence. Mr. Deng Xiaoping appointed the former Vice Premier Fang Yi to make the arrangement for it. On February 6, 1978, Mr. Deng approved the report jointly submitted by the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Broadcasting on the founding of a national radio and television universities system. After 1 year's preparation, the Central Radio and TV University, CRTVU, based in Beijing, and another 28 provincial radio and TV universities, PRTVUs, except Taiwan and Tibet, were established. On February 6, 1978, CRTVU first transmitted courses via the microwave network of China Central Television, CCTV. Since 1986, China has begun to use a special satellite to transmit TV education programs for various purposes. In 1987, the Chinese Educational Television, CETV, and China's TV Teacher Training Institute, CTVTTI, were formally set up by SEDC to be responsible for completing satellite TV education and in-service training for primary and secondary school teachers. After more than 1 decade's development, China's radio and TV higher education, RTVHE, has taken shape. The following are the main characteristics of the system and structure of China's RTVU's education at the macro, median, and micro levels respectively. This system and structure can be identified as the Chinese hierarchical multibodied model or simply called China's RTVU's model. At the macro level, the national system and structure. China's RTVU system has a unique administrative and academic organizational structure with 5 layers parallel to the structure of China's administration of governments. Central layer, the Central Radio and TV University, CRTVU, based in Beijing, is the heart of this national system. It was run jointly by the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Broadcasting in 1979, and since 1984 by the State Education Commission. Provincial layer, the Provincial Radio and TV Universities, PRTVUs. There are 31 provincial-level governments, including the Province Taiwan and the Province Henan, newly established in 1988, in China. Of these, 23 are provincial, 5 are autonomous regional, and 3 are municipal. Each of them, except Taiwan and Tibet, has established a PRTVU. In addition, there are 14 cities listed as independent planning entities, and each of these also operates an independent PRTVU. So there are 43 PRTVUS altogether. Prefectural or civic layer, the branch schools, BSS. There are nearly 330 prefectures and prefecture-level cities in China. Most of them have established branch schools attached to the national RTVUs system and corresponding PRTVUs. Also, there are hundreds of branch schools run by various departments of economic and industrial sectors and other societal organizations or institutions. Counties layer, the workstations. There are more than 2,200 counties and equivalent administrative units in China. Many of them have set up workstations attached to local branch schools. There are lots of workstations run by departments of economics and industries and other societal organizations and institutions as well. Grassroots layer, the TV classes, TVCIs. The TV classes are the grassroots level of China's national RTVU system. Most of them are run by various grassroots units in Chinese society, or by RTVUs at various layers, by various departments and other societal organizations and institutions. China's RTVU system is operated on the basis of overall planning, running schools and managing at various layers with the CRTVU as its center. See different responsibilities of each layer of RTVUS system below for a detailed description. There is a central authority, titled the Electronic Education Bureau between 1985 to 1993, and called the Electrification Education Committee since 1994, as a department of SEDC, which is responsible for planning, policy making, macro adjustment, control and management of the overall electrification education, including RTVHE, reporting to a Vice Minister of the SEDC directly. Until now, by the decision of SEDC, the RTVHE in China provides only short-cycle undergraduate studies and not normal undergraduate or postgraduate studies. Short-cycle higher education diploma programs in various study fields, disciplines and specialities have been offered by the CRTVU nationwide and also by regional PRTVUs and some branch schools to meet local needs. Both of the largest national TV networks in China, the CCTV and the CETV, give their support and service for the RTVHE. The CCTV, under the leadership of the former Broadcasting Ministry, now the Radio, Film and TV Ministry, provides its transmission services through an agreement between the Radio, Film and TV Ministry, RFTVM, and the SEPC, while the CETV, under the leadership of the SEDC, directly gives its support and services to educational programs including RTVHE. In addition, the regional and local radio and TV broadcasting networks at provincial, prefectural or civic, and country levels throughout China provide their support and services to regional and local RTVHE coordinated by the regional and local governments and relevant departments. At the median level, the institutional organization and structure. Single mode, in China, RTVHE provisions are run by newly established national RTVUs system exclusively for distance learners. China's RTVHE provisions are mainly for in-service adults, but also accept some young school leavers. In addition, distance learners in RTVUS can choose study types of full-time, part-time and spare time. Staff structure. The institutions at all layers of China's RTVU system have their own full-time staff, including academic staff, and also some part-time academic staff recruited from other higher education institutions, research institutes, related business companies and so on. According to the general basis of operation, overall planning, running schools and managing at various layers, the institutions at various layers of China's RTVU system have different administrative and academic responsibilities. 1. CRTVUS. A. Produce the curricula for RTVUs and ensure that the curricula include all the subjects which are recognized as of interest nationally, and offer the key courses in them. B. Produce syllabi, radio and TV programs for these key courses. Write, edit, publish and distribute multimedia materials for these courses. C. Set end of semester national unified examinations for these key courses and ensure that marking is standardized, and draw up national examination timetables. D. Train teachers, technicians and administrative staff. A. Conduct research on higher education through distance learning. F. Direct and supervise the instruction and teaching administration of PRTVUS and coordinate academic work when it is shared by more than one PRTVU. 2. PRTVUS. A. Produce courses in subjects which are of specific interest to their region. B. Produce syllabi, TV and radio programs, write course materials and supplementary materials for the courses they have produced. C. Set end of semester examinations for their own courses and mark them. Timetable the examinations set by CRTVU and mark these papers. D. Ensure that teachers follow set administrative and examination procedures. Enroll new students, keep student records and issue diplomas and certificates. A. Train teachers and keep abreast of new teaching methodology. Promote the interchange of ideas on the running of local RTVUS institutions. F. Direct and supervise the teaching and administrative work done in branch schools and workstations. G. Provide advice, guidance and help to students with academic and personal problems. 3. Branch schools. A. All aspects of timetabling. This includes timetables for watching TV programs, tutorials, examinations, tests, laboratory work and field studies as set out by CRTVU and the regional PRTVU. B. Ensure that the teachers follow the set administrative and examination procedures. Ensure that course syllabuses are adhered to. C. Set up workstations and TV classes and direct and supervise their work. D. Provide advice, guidance and help to students with academic, personal problems. A. Issue diplomas and certificates. F. Administer established courses in the subjects which are of specific interest locally. 4. Workstations. A. Recruit teachers and tutors. B. Organize TV classes and maintain high teaching standards. Timetable tutorials, laboratory work and field studies. Distribute teaching materials. C. Provide advice, guidance, and help to students with academic, personal problems. At the micro level, the operating subsystem and its organizational structure. Student learning model, groups, based in workplace, in contrast to home-based, are common elements of Chinese radio and TV higher education. Students are usually organized in the TV classes and several classes are under the management of a workstation. Basic structure of study in China's RTVU system: independent studying on print materials, regularly watching the TV or programs on video cassettes, listening to the radio programs or audio cassettes in groups, usually in the fixed classrooms located in their grassroots unit, regularly attending the face-to-face tutorials in the classrooms, completing and sending the homework and regular assignments and getting the feedback, marking and comments from their face-to-face tutors for every course. Organizing assessments and end-of-semester examinations. Some courses require laboratory work, or can be completed using experimental kits at home, and other types of practical work such as the field exercises, teaching practice, social surveys, course designing and so on. The short-cycle higher education diploma programs also require students to complete some kind of graduate designing or graduate assignment before being awarded the diplomas. Compulsory pacing is a key feature of teaching and learning in China's RTVHE. It is organized in the form of compulsory regular face-to-face tutorials in the classrooms and also by compulsory paced assignments and the marking timetable. Accordingly, China's RTVUs are run mainly in the form of a semester credit system. The credits can be kept effective for 10 years. The administrative and academic responsibilities of TV classes. A. Drawing up class timetables each semester. B. Organizing the viewing of and listening to course programs. Arranging tutorials, laboratory, experimental work and other practical works. C. Encouraging students to take part in physical education and recreational activities in their spare time. D. Maintaining contact with the work units to which their students are attached. Satellite TV teacher training. Unlike China's RTVU's model, China's TV Teacher Training Institute, operated since 1986 and formally founded in 1987, has features and characteristic system and structure, which has been sometimes called the Courses Transmitting Center model, or simply China's TVTTI mode. The main characteristics of the system and structure of China's TVTTI education. At the macro level, the national system and structure. The only newly established nationwide institution is China's TV Teacher Training Institute based in Beijing. The institute is under the leadership of the SEDC and its Department of Electrification Education Bureau. CTVTTI is responsible for nationwide planning, organizing and managing of in-service training for primary and secondary school teachers. CETV is responsible for transmitting teacher training programs via special satellite TV education channels. CTVTTI has only a few administrative staff but no academic staff. Its main task is to collaborate with China's Higher Education Publishing House, China's People's Education Publishing House and various regular higher education institutions in the design, production and distribution of educational programs, curricula, syllabi and various course materials for teacher training in a variety of study fields by academic staff in RHEIS. At the median level, the institutional organization and structure all higher education institutions are relevant to teacher training. Most of them are the adult higher education institutions such as education colleges and teacher training schools. Also local RTVUs also can run schools or classes for teacher training by using the course materials and TV programs transmitted by CTVTTI and CETV. Those institutions involved in teacher training in this way are responsible for organizing students' classes, teaching, assessment and examinations, and awarding their own diplomas or certificates. At the micro level, the operating subsystem and its organizational structure. In service, teachers at primary and secondary schools are required to pass the Unified Entrance Examination to get the status of enrollment. Students are organized in groups and learn by using printed materials for courses, watching TV programs and attending the face-to-face tutorials organized by registered institutions. It is clear that the courses transmitting center model is much more loose and flexible than the Chinese hierarchical model. In 1993, the TV Teacher Training Institute became a part of the Central Radio and TV University. State-administered examinations of higher education for independent study. A national examination system called State-Administered Examinations of Higher Education for Independent Study, SEHEIS, was introduced in China, first in several metropolises in 1981, then in all parts of the nation in 1983. From 1981 to 1990, there have been issued 524,644 short cycle and 3,785 normal undergraduate diplomas, and 859 bachelor's degrees altogether. In 1993, the SEHEIS provided examinations of courses in 14 specialities, and received a total of 4,838,100 applications and awarded 127,100 undergraduate diplomas. The main characteristics of the system and structure of the state-administered examinations of higher education for independent study. The following are the three main features of the system and structure of the SEHEIS in China. Independent study is the basis, learning support services are provided by various societies, and state-administered examinations are the core of the system. The SEHEIS provide both normal and short cycle, including specific and fundamental, higher education diplomas. At the macro level, the national system and structure. There is a National Guidance Committee, NGC, of State-Administered Examinations of Higher Education for Independent Study approved by the State Council and the 13 professional committees and 1 Examination Research Committee under the National Guidance Committee. In addition, there is an Office of SEHEIS in the SEDC. The responsibilities of these committees and offices are to produce policies and guidelines for the SEHEIS, to work out the examination programs and examination syllabi for various study fields and specialities, to coordinate the writing and approving of course materials by organizing experienced academic staff, professors and experts in related study fields and specialities in the RHEIs, to unify the standards of the SEHEIS nationwide, and to carry out academic guidance, evaluation and research for the SEHEIS. There are the Provincial Guidance Committees, PCC, and the offices of SEHEIS in each province, autonomous region and municipality. Their responsibilities are to issue the list of study fields and specialities involved in regional SEHEIS, to organize the examinations by the committees, or to appoint some RHEIs as the examinations holder institutions, EHIS, to award certificates for single course completion and normal or short cycle higher education diplomas for graduates, and to manage matters related to examinations. There are also the working committees or units and the offices of SEHEIS in related prefectures, cities and counties, responsible for organizing the examinations. At the median level, the institutional organization and structure, the EHI and its functions. The examinations holder institution, EHI, for a certain speciality is chosen and approved by the PCC of SEBIs. It should be a well-known RHEI in that study field and speciality, with a good reputation for its academic staff and educational condition. The EHIs take part in the work of deciding the standards of examinations and assigning the question sheets of examinations. The EHIs organize the work of marking examination sheets and accreditation. The EHIs organize the practical work, experiments or laboratory work, field exercises etc. for examinees. The EHIs jointly with PGC of SEHEIS issue the diplomas. The EHIs should not organize tuition for examinees in the courses examined by them. That means that tuition must be separated from the assigning of examination questions. At the micro level, the operating subsystem and its organizational structure, combination of independent study with social learning support services. Examinees can choose to study independently and or receive the learning support services provided by various societies, including various tuition classes such as TV, correspondence and face-to-face tutorials. The learning support services are provided by various departments of governments and industries, educational and societal organizations and institutions, e.g. mass organizations, democratic parties, academic associations etc. Summary. China has a nationwide binary system of higher distance education, higher correspondence education, HCE, and Radio and TV Higher Education, RTVHE. China's higher correspondence education is mainly offered by the regular higher education institutions and has a dual but separated mode. That is, full-time students and correspondence students are taught by different groups of academic staff. In addition, the teaching programs, curricula, syllabi, course materials, assessments, examinations, accreditation and awarding of diplomas and degrees for two types of students are different. This separated multi-department dual model is more or less similar to those in the other parts of the world, e.g. Russia and the United States, but quite different from the Australian integrated model where both external and internal students are taught by the same academic staff using the same curriculum and course materials and given the same examinations and degrees. China's RTVHE is mainly provided by the National RTVU system, which has been established exclusively for distance learners. The system has a hierarchical structure with 5 layers and is operated on the basis of overall planning, running schools and managing at various layers. The institutions of China's RTVU system at various layers have different administrative and academic responsibilities. In this way, the Chinese hierarchical multi-bodies model is quite different from other single-mode institutions, e.g. the Open University in the United Kingdom and those in other developed and developing countries, where a single, usually national, institution, not a multi-institutional system, has autonomy and rights over its planning, policy making, financing, staffing, administration and management, teaching, assessment, accreditation and awarding. As the course's transmission center, China's TV Teacher Training Institute provides distance education in cooperation and collaboration with other organizations, which is more or less similar to those multi-institution systems of higher distance education in other parts of the world. In addition, the state-administered examinations of higher education for independent study is a national examination system rather than an institutional one such as the external degrees system in London University. In China, higher distance education, as a part of adult higher education, is operated under the planning and control of the central government, that is, the State Education Commission and its relevant departments. The strong impact and influence of rationalization and concentration coming from the SEDC can be seen clearly through the whole history of China's higher distance education. In this aspect, China's higher distance education system is also rather different from those systems in Western countries with a far greater degree of institutional autonomy. In both systems of HCE and RTVHE in China, the students are organized in group correspondence classes or TV classes based on their grassroots working units. Compulsory paced face-to-face tutorials are a common element of higher distance education in China. These elements of China's higher distance education have led to it being referred to as the Eastern consultation model and make it quite distinct from the Western correspondence model of home-based, self-paced and individualized forms of learning with fewer or no existing face-to-face sessions. See Peters, 1971, Ding, 1986 and 1992. Correspondence printed materials are the leading instructional media for HCE, while the radio and TV programs supplemented by audio and video cassettes comprise the key instructional media in RTVHE. China's RTVUE use TV programs on a large scale, not only the total amount of transmission hours annually, 5,558 class hours in 1993, 50 minutes each class hour, but also for each single course and individual learner. This is a unique way of using TV broadcasting for higher distance education in the world. See Ding, 1986. All these characteristics of China's higher distance education make it quite unique from other distance education systems in the world, not only in organization and administration, but also in multimedia teaching and learning. China is a developing country with a huge population. In the view of per capita indexes, China's telecommunication and higher education are still relatively weak. For example, telephone services are not common yet, even in sections of higher education in the metropolises. Two-way telecommunication cannot be easily introduced to China's higher education system because of financial problems, and therefore, China's higher correspondence education provided by the RHEIs will remain as an example of first-generation distance education. China's radio and TV higher education will stay in the form of second-generation, the industrialized form of distance education, by using mass broadcasting media to deliver China's higher distance education courses in the next few decades. See Peters, 1973, Campion and Kelly, 1988, Nipper, 1989. Abbreviations: BSS, branch schools; CC is CCRV, correspondence classes; CCTV, China Central Television; CETV, Chinese Educational Television; CRTVU, Central Radio and TV University; CTVTTI, China's TV Teacher Training Institute; CWS, correspondence workstations, E, electrification education, examinations holder institutions, EHIS, FLVs, free listeners viewer, FRUS, formal registered undergraduates for full courses higher correspondence education, HCE, NGC, National Guidance Committee, NUEE, the National Unified Entrance Examination, PGC, Provincial Guidance Committee, PRTVUS, Provincial Radio and TV Universities Regular Higher Education Institutions, RHEIS, Radio and TV Higher Education, RTVHE, RTVUS, Radio and TV Universities, SCS, Single Course Students, SEDC, State Education Commission, SAHE, TVCIS, TV Classes, WSS, Workstations, the pay, her education for, State Administered Examinations of Higher Education for, Independent Study. Thank you.